to HMAS Civil Troop Transport as an engineering participant apprentice. Highlights included 9 trips to Vietnam, bringing the last soldiers home, gaining all his prior working tickets up to the charge certificate, and deployment to Canada and the USA to pick up Skyhawks and trackers for the Melbourne. He missed the ship in Hawaii, but was flown to San Diego to catch up because he was otherwise and leave.
Sorry, I know that.
After 3 years, he was on annual mid-leave when he and another Tiffy, who happened to be on leave at the time, were crash drafted to HMAS Melbourne after being drawn out of the hat in their absence. He served on HMAS Melbourne for 3 years. Highlights were another trip to the USA to pick up the Chinooks for the RAF and being recalled on Christmas Day to sail to Darwin on Boxing Day to put Darwin back together after cyclone Tracy. His employment on Melbourne was as a petty officer of wrestling gear maintenance and a short stint as a refrigeration technician. He spent 2 years at HMAS Watson as a lawnmower technician and chief regulator and was promoted to chief petty officer while there. Also at Watson, he passed professional exams and selection boards and was promoted to sub-lieutenant to date 15th of January 1979. Unfortunately, Navy office forgot that his 12 years was up, and on the 13th of January 1979, so he had to re-enlist for a year to cover the 2-day gap. He posted to the UK to Stanley to Greenwich Naval College for 8 weeks and then to the Royal Navy Engineering College, Menadon, in Plymouth for another 12 months. On return to Australia, he was posted to HMAS Melbourne to double-bottom engineer and volunteer for submarines. Almost immediately, he was posted to HMS Dolphin in the UK for submarine training. On return to Australia, he was posted to HMS Orion for Part 3 training and promoted to lieutenant. He passed on some orders as Dolphins and posted as a marine engineering officer to HMS Atama. Highlights were 2 special operations trials in the South China Sea. He then took Atama into refit and joined HMS Onslow, coming out of the refit at the Marine Engineering Officer. The highlights was a 5-month deployment to the US and Canada. He was promoted to Lieutenant Commander and his final posting was as the Submarine Project Officer at Cockatoo Island Dockyard, overseeing submarine documents and briefings. He transferred to the Navy Reserve in November 1998 and after leaving the permanent naval force. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. Barry Davis.
Thank you very much for that. Now's the time to have it. Set the snooze button for 10 minutes. I'll volunteer for some. I'm going to read this because otherwise I'll go off attention. I volunteered for submarines after I came back from my SD officers course in the UK, and the RAN in its wisdom sent me back from Melbourne. With all respect, 3 years to see this other ticket. I had sent a letter to the postings informing of my discontent, but I received no reply. I wanted an engineer in charge of my own, not be one of several engineers doing filling jobs. Submarines was the only one. I had never actually been on one, so it was a shaky decision. A quick interview at Platypus into the diving chamber that same day to ensure it would stand pressure changes and accepted by 1600. I got initiated. Submarine Part 1 and 2 training was done at Dolphin in the UK. Part 1 being submarine systems and Part 2 whatever your branch category was. On completion was back to good old Oz and straight to Orion for my Part 3, which is learning everyone else's job sufficiently enough to do it in an emergency and tracing and learning every system on the boat. Then tested by heads of all departments and if passed awarded the Golden Dolphins. The skipper of Orion when I did my Part 3 training was Commander Kim Pitt, later become a Commodore. He was an excellent teacher and tried very hard to make this engineer a reasonable submarine seaman officer, even though I kept reminding him that I was an engineer. One check he showed us very early on I'll never forget. Without any explanation, he had the foremast part freezing the control of the periscope. We were dived over the continental shelf at this stage. The order held them 20 degrees down, fully head together. We were heading rather quickly into the depths with a rather large angle on. Try yourself standing with a 20-degree list. As we passed through about 400 feet, he told the plane to take his hands off the planes. No one's driving anymore. To our amazement, the submarine, of its own accord, levelled out and started rising. What magic is this was for? It was in the design of the overalls, the outer-flared bow. None built since the 60s has this design, as they were all teardrop hulls. The flared bow was a safeguard in case the control lost brought back and drove the boat to the surface. By a bit I was impressed. My first posting on being a weatherboat dolphins was a spook boat HMAS Atama as a marine engineering officer, which is quite relevant as Atama is now sitting in Western Port Bay, waiting to sink again. It was 1982 and HMAS Atama was carrying out pre-deployment workups for our next history patrol. We spent the day off Newcastle doing underwater looks on oil tankers at anchor and other tankers just getting underway. A very dangerous and interesting exercise, as it was the first periscope video cameras ever fitted to the attack periscope. Everyone in the control room could see exactly how it was done and how close we had to be. In the tails coming up from behind a moving vessel, usually entering harbour, as that's when their speed is kept down, lining up the screws for the attack periscope, and very carefully slipping under the ship or submarine with about 6 feet of clearance. The idea was to pass down one side and down the next, avoiding the screws on the way out, all the while taking video and photographs of the underwater sensors, etc. on the ship's hull, and recording any transmissions or other noises. Later that evening, after dark off Palm Beach, Sydney, we waved a periscope to the SAS to parachute of Hercules and dropped into the sea. We shone a red light through the periscope from a torch for the SAS to locate us. They then popped out their canoes, joined two together at the bow as we drove between them and caught them with a periscope. We had a line running from the top of the fin to the floor casing and surfaced just after the casing, which is below the casing. Opened the forward torpedo loading hatch and brought them on board. This was a prelude to an interesting episode. Our next task was to retrieve an agent from Palm Beach. Needless to say, the surf was pretty busy that night, so it was quite a dangerous venture. We sent our SAS friends ashore near Rubber Ducky. We had little trouble bringing our agent back on board as the sea was attacked rough. Our scratcher, as Submarine talked with the second coxswain, was very keen with his use of his SLR, using the pointy end as a tool of assistance. It was quite rough, his use of saying getting our new agent friend on board. I was on the trim and controlling action station for this exercise. We finally had wrangled our agent, dressed in Arab clothes, into the control room. He was carrying on pretending to speak little English and being very uncooperative. It was at this point that our dedicated scratcher decided that enough was enough. And this intrigued me to a little reminder of who was in charge. He gave him an almighty whack where he shouldn't with the pointy end of his SLR and told him to get his effing act together. He didn't say effing. Or the next one would not be quite as pleasant. We finally drove this nasty Arab into the captain's cabin with a few more threatening expletives and said he'd blow his head off if he said one more word. Meanwhile, the skipper returned from the fin to the control room. To this day, I don't know whether he initially knew who the agent was. He quieted our renegade scratcher down and unmasked our super agent to those of us in the control room. To our great surprise and worry, it was our very own Foco, flag officer commanding in Australian Fleet. I don't remember his name. The Admiral was very sporting and complimented us on being very security conscious. He was rubbing his sore rear at the time. We passed our days of our pre-deployment with flying colours. The crew was also impressed that Foco had shown enough interest in us to carry out this raid and did such a good story. Our next exercise was a navigational fix and set up a stop trim or steady hedge at 180 feet and drifted south on the East Australian current from about 1200 to about 0400. The stop trim is achieved by moving water in or out fore and aft, so the boat becomes neutrally buoyant with a 5-degree bow down angle and no propelled motion. We came up to take the fixes out, Pool of Arrows was about to hit land, and spotted a very good destroyer sitting blacked out with point perpendicular. We knew she was part of an enemy fleet waiting for our mob to proceed to sea that morning. We did a quick setup, fired a water shot, green grenade, and got the hell out of there before the air broke up what was going on. If you're uninitiated, a green grenade is fired off to alert the bad guys that have just been sunk. Then we started off on patrol. On the patrol, the submarines have 2 6-hour watches at all times. The only change is when we go to action stations, and then basically everyone else on watch for the duration. It only happens about 2 or 3 times during the patrol. For underwater looks, if an object of interest appears, such as a Russian warship, or danger threatens the crew. The crew size is increased by about 10 in all spooks. Because of the numbers, almost everybody hot butts. And as you climb out, your opposite watch number climbs in. To facilitate this, everyone has issued with a sleeping bag and a small nylon pillow. No fancy sheets or cases for us. Sleeping bags are dry cleaned at least every 3 months in case you're wondering. To commence patrol, we fast transit from our last port of call about a week. Then once nearing our target, we dive and stay at periscope depth for 6 weeks, with one officer always on the search periscope going around in circles, and the other 3 either navigating on the trim of submarine patrol or running the sound room of the fire control system, or rotating jobs every half hour. This was done 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. During night hours, we would retreat to sea and snort to charge the batteries. That's running the diesels, still submerged, to get power back to the batteries. At all times, we travelled at slow 1, which is 1 shaft only doing about 3 knots to keep the mast feathering down to nothing. Apart from the periscope, which also contained the satellite navigation receiver, only 2 other masts were continually raised, both being used to acquire enemy transmissions and intelligence. We had Russian and Chinese translators on board to assist with this. We also had a floating line with a receiver head on the end to receive incoming signal traffic, which we trailed at 600 feet behind us. No news from home was allowed to be passed to the crew during patrol. The Tama and Orion were set up with better sensors and more high-tech equipment than the other boats, and also had their radar masts removed. These were replaced with sensitive transmission of acquisition masts to pick up enemy fire control radars and targeting electronics. During the patrol, there was a curtain placed around the chart table. None of the officers and spooks knew where we were. The crew was kept in the dark to allow them plausible deniability in case of detection and must detain them. As we continually dived, the crew also had to rely on the state of lighting in the boat to determine whether the sun was shining or not. Once the sun sets, the submarine goes into red lighting and gradually it was dark enough outside into black lighting for several reasons. If an emergency occurs and the boat has to surface, eyes are already accustomed to walking on a black deck. The watchman on the periscope has to be able to keep his night vision as he has the safety number, and the captain has to be able to react and see instantly what's out in case of an incident, as this would normally have been taken his actions through the attack periscope. We had a torpedo fired at us on this patrol while we were shadowing a Russian naval exercise. It would have been quite funny except the possibility of being sunk. We were already at action station, so I was off to watch on the trim, when a frantic call came from the sound room. Effing torpedo! The skipper quietly said, and this is true, what is the correct call, sound room? With the reply, sorry sir, torpedo, 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 torpedo in the water, bearing that, range that, and closing. We took the necessary evasive action and scarpered away, thankfully. When you surface after 6 weeks, the last person you want to be is the surfacing off the white crew's lookout. When the economy tower hatch is open for the first time, an almighty stench comes into play, and all the growth that's been going on the fin caused by a very slow speed of travel. And yes, it even overcame our own delicate sensibilities after not showering for such a long period. We've even found spiny sea creatures and octopus on the conning tower lid. Barnacles are everywhere, and the first job alongside is a very thorough steam clean of the entire above water section. Even the black paint turns whitish. After 6 weeks, we would leave the area, surface and head for a wee bar and over a safe port before coming home. Though 8-man swan did upset us once. They had no idea what we had been doing, but found out we were in the area on our way to Singapore, and we kept up the subterfuge, we had to dive again and play with them for 2 days. Not a very happy group of submarines. But we got our own back, as we berthed out all of them in Singapore basins, and had to cross their quarterdeck to get ashore. Imagine 70 smelly submariners, still now steamy shorts, t-shirts and sandals, no reef visible so they weren't fanned out a shot at us, lolling about in their nice, pretty clean ship as we proceeded ashore to our hotels. I should explain, uniforms weren't worn at sea in those days by submarines. As soon as we were out of sight ashore, everybody, including the skipper, changed into steamy wear, t-shirts, shorts and sandals, and a white submarine jumper if it got cold. On my last patrol, I bought 6 different colours of t-shirts and shorts in our last port, which was Hong Kong, and changed them weekly. No washing your clothes allowed, too much noise. Now to finish off, I'd just like to read you a story from the Submariner's Bible, being Christmas now, and a bridge story version of the creation story. And in advance, I offer my apologies to Father John Whiteside, one of our subsection members, who is here, who probably uses this in his Sunday sermons anyway. If not, you're welcome. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and all else was darkness, and void without form. So God created the heavens and the earth, created the sun, and the moon, and the stars, so that the light might pierce the darkness. And the earth God divided between the land and the sea, and these he filled with many assorted creatures. And the dark, smelly creatures that inhabit the land God called army, and dressed them as ornament like trees and bushes. And the flighty creatures of the air he called air force, and these he clothed in uniforms of light blue to match the sky. And the creatures who sailed on the surface of the sea God called skimmers. Then with a twinkle in his eye and a sense of humour that only he could have, God gave them red grey tarpers to sail on. He gave them many splendid uniforms to wear. He gave them many wonderful exotic places to visit. He gave them pen and paper so they could write home everywhere. He gave them afternoons off, movies and ice cream makers. And he gave them a warning to keep their splendid uniforms clean. When you God to tend to get carried out. And on the 7th day, God rested. And on the 8th day, at 0700, God looked down the earth and he was not happy. So he thought about his labours. In his infinite wisdom, God created a divine creature which he called a submariner. And the submariners were created in his own image and to be of the deep. And to them he gave the dolphin insignia. He gave them black messengers of death to roam the depths of the seas, waging war against the forces of Satan and evil. He gave them submarine power, so they might entertain the ladies on Saturday nights and impress the day of the skimmers. At the end of the 8th day, God looked down the earth and saw that all was good. But still, God was not happy. In the course of his labours, he had forgotten one thing. He himself did not have a submariner's dolphins. He thought about it, and he thought about it, and finally satisfied himself, knowing that not just anybody could be a submariner.
Thanks very much. Thank you for the insight of your naval and submarine experiences.
Very politically correct.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the official part of the